Hi everyone, welcome to our meeting today. Our second webinar all about AI, but this one is a bit more technical. This one is a bit more of Tim doing his, telling us how he did all the things that he did. So yeah, again, would love to welcome Tim and thank him for joining me again today.
Good to be here.
Tim is the master of AI as when it comes to Logic, so he's going to give us all of his insights today. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the lands of which we meet today and pay my respect to elders past and present. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. The session is recorded and we will send out the link to all of those who've registered to join us today. But before we move on, we also do have a YouTube channel. So if you're on YouTube and you search for Logic, it'll bring you to this channel. And that has every single webinar that we've had. All of those recordings are on here. So if you're ever looking for someone or someone in your team is looking for it and you can't remember where that link is, just pop onto the YouTube channel. They're all in there as well. So you're welcome to access it that way. Let's get into it. Let me just get myself organised and my questions ready for Tim. Tim, you intentionally designed, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen because this is more conversational.
Yeah.
You intentionally designed Logic to be user-led, meaning that the staff member writes the narrative, AI populates the form, but the user is required to review a lot of things on the form. From a development perspective, why was it so critical to keep a human in the loop rather than aiming for full automation?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a I'm pretty sure some people here will have seen this, but there's a great IBM slide. I think it's from 1979. Don't quote me on that. But it says a computer can never be held accountable. Therefore, a computer should never make a management decision. And that's guided the entire ethos of what we've been trying to achieve here. Some of the things you will hear when it comes to AI usage is along the lines of human in the loop, or one of the terms we've heard recently at the Digital Health Festival in Melbourne by some of the speakers there was human in the lead, which is far more provocative. To us, it was very important to develop a solution that didn't make decisions for you. So there are multiple reasons for this. One of the biggest problems in a system that's making decisions for you is there's this thing known as agentic drift in these AI systems. As everyone here who's used AI can probably relate to, these things have a tendency to get off the rails over time. So we do have an idea of what a correct response is to a question or a correct solution. But over time, you can end up with this phenomenon where it's not producing wrong answers, but it's producing incorrect answers that look correct. So one of the reasons we try and have a human in the loop is to ground the workflow as it's actually happening. Now, that being said, we don't have extended AI workflows in what we've rolled out, which is why we're going with human in the lead. So with the AI incident population form, for example, you provide a description and it will suggest content for various fields and show you its reasoning. It's trying to be as transparent as possible so that you can review all of the answers generated and say, hang on, that's right, that isn't, I don't agree with that reasoning, it's actually this according to our policy. So this is putting you as the user where you should be, which is behind the steering wheel. We don't want to obscure or remove any kind of agency in subtle ways or give these systems an opportunity to drift off course. So this is why it's been so important to bake that into our solution, and it will be what we're sticking to as an ethos for introducing AI across the platform moving forward.
That's great. Thank you, Tim. There is naturally a lot of hesitation around generative AI feeding sensitive health or community services data back into public models. Can you walk us through how the architecture guarantees that our customers' inputs, outputs, and embeddings are completely hidden from those kinds of things and never used to train foundation models?
Yeah, this is a big concern for a lot of people, and for very fair reasons, right? You don't want any of your data showing up in generated responses across the board. So straight up, we do not use any of your data for training models. We don't use it for fine-tuning any models either. In addition to that, any additional AI services we've used behind the scenes, we've opted out of any kind of training or storing of data. So every interaction you have with these AI systems in Logic, they are ephemeral. They're transient. For example, the reasoning log within the AI incident population form, that is not stored anywhere either. So not just the data itself used for AI inference, we don't store that, and we don't train off that. All of the artifacts generated around that, which at the moment is the reasoning log. But moving forward, as we have more conversational solutions, that might be something like an actual conversation log itself, for example. That is also transient. We understand that might be a little bit frustrating. If you refresh the page, you've lost your reasoning block, you've lost your conversation, but that's also a huge advantage considering the type of data we're using here. We don't want to keep that. It's ideal for you as well. We want to keep these transactions pretty simple. When it comes to training as well, there's often a bit of a misconception around how AI trains. It doesn't, strictly speaking, store all of your information and then look it up and go, okay, well, I have 1,000 answers that are similar to this for this question, and then it generates something along those lines. Instead, it kind of takes your data and everyone else's and puts it into a melting pot and then produces an answer that looks sort of like everything combined together. So if training was happening, it doesn't store it anywhere. It's this weird statistical amalgamation of content. And again, to reiterate, we're not allowing your data to be stored in any capacity for training or even be used or thrown into that stew. So there isn't even a chance that anything you provide will be used for training at all. But just to clear up some extra confusion around what that looks like and how we treat your content.
I think we can hear a proverbial sigh of relief around, because it's really important to know that. So thanks for taking us through that. Tim, data sovereignty is non-negotiable for organisations that use Logic. You made the decision to ensure that all data stored at rest is strictly localised to Australia's east.
Mhm.
What were the technical or compliance challenges in ensuring that the geographic ring fence?
Yeah, so we have our web infrastructure as it stands, and all of that is hosted onshore. That's where we keep any of your register related items and system configuration items as well. When it comes to the AI work itself, again, all of that is transient, and we don't see that changing anytime soon. When it comes to using Microsoft Azure AI Foundry, which is what we use for all of our AI inference needs, we have the fantastic ability to designate where we're provisioning the specific AI large language models that we're using for our AI services. And what we've done is provision that within Sydney specifically. So at the moment, any context that's used for AI inference, it doesn't leave Australian shores at all. In addition to that, it's not even stored anywhere once the AI inference is actually completed. So regardless of whether it's at rest within our web servers using that context and anything you provide in the moment, and when it's transient during AI inference or egress, it never leaves Australian shores. So we're sticking to data sovereignty there.
Oh, that's great. That's good to know. And we've got a question, and I just want you to reiterate that answer, please. What model is being used behind the scenes? Is that the Microsoft Azure AI Foundry that you were talking about, or is it something else?
So we use Foundry, Microsoft Azure Foundry, to host different models. I'll go into this a little bit, but not too much. So here we have full access to a whole bunch of different models that may be hosted by Anthropic, such as Claude models, Haiku, Opus, OpenAI models as well, and they're provisioned within Azure's data centers. So you can have frontier models such as OpenAI's 5.x or even Fable if you wanted to from Anthropic, and we have access to open weight models as well, which we provision where we want to and as we need them. We don't use extremely advanced models. We haven't seen a need for that. Part of the reasoning is you can use what's known as an agentic harness to get a lot of reasoning capabilities and the things that we need for our purposes using very streamlined models. So what we're using behind the scenes is GPT-4, which is a pretty old model now. We'll be looking to move that forward, but considering how we've built our workflow behind the scenes to handle your incident population requests, we have a lot of the reasoning broken down and a lot of the context very explicitly, clearly marked out. You could achieve better performance with different models, but this is the one we've opted to, mostly because it uses fractions of a cent for actual request completion. So hopefully that that answers your question, Shiv.
Right. Well, Shiv will let us know. The AI is only as good as the prompt, which means it does still rely heavily on the staff member when entering that incident description. How did you balance the design so that Logiqc AI makes reporting faster while still encouraging the user to provide crucial details like dates and times necessary for managing the risk?
Yep. There's a few different approaches to this. So you're absolutely right. The answer for these systems is typically only as good as the prompt. And funny how that works. So if you work with an individual and you give them a bad brief, you're probably going to get a bad outcome as well. It's the same thing for AI here. That said, that's the from the top down position. We've tried to also complement that situation from the bottom up. It's not always clear how things should be filled out, even when you are the person who experienced the incident yourself, to focus specifically on the incident register. The details you might provide are somewhat ambiguous. So what we've done, and this is apparent in the reasoning breakdown, and to reiterate, this is complementing the basic model use. We've implemented a I don't want to say sophisticated, but very comprehensive reasoning approach to ensure the model is avoiding drift scenarios as often as possible. So we'll group together either singular or small batches of fields. The model will then inspect the provided description and see, based on some criteria, what is actually relevant for this. A great example is the location and time, for example. So we have 5 different fields here for this. We have the date, the time, hours and minutes, the location field itself, which is a drop-down select option from the locations you've provided within your facilities available on that form. So that's dynamic. Then we have a checkbox to enable additional content and the additional content itself. So these are all batched together as a date and time and location. If you haven't provided specific time, we've actually given the model a release valve, and not just for this batch of questions, but a whole bunch of other ones as well. If the model can't accurately determine what it should put there, we're not forcing it to hallucinate content. That's often a major cause of hallucination there. With the date, we have some essential kind of checklist functions. So, hey, is the date provided? Is it not? This is why in the previous webinar, we said you need to be pretty specific here. You can't say, 3 fortnights and 1 day ago. It'll have a hard time taking the extra steps. Again, we're relying a lot on some reasoning harnessing here, not the model itself to make inference. This kind of methodology has been deployed across the entire form. It's what we're considering for our approach in deploying this to other registers as well. I think that covers off a lot of the question here. My major concern was making sure that regardless of what a user brings from a prompt, it can provide something of value, and instead of hallucinating, it has a way to opt out. So yes, a better prompt will improve your results, but at the same time, we've done everything we can to make sure it's providing value, even when you're not necessarily sure on all the details.
That's really great. Thanks, Tim. It's amazing to think how much thinking you and the team did in the back end to give us what
We had a
found.
lot of hard sessions going through and thinking about these hard problems. When it comes to AI deployments, this is the hard stuff. Connecting an API to a backend, that's easy. Anyone can do that, and we've seen that in a lot of platforms. But getting it to work through these hard problems in a way that's transparent, that's the hard yards, and we've tried our best to work through those.
Thanks for that. Trust is a huge issue when we adopt AI, and not just in a platform like ours, but everywhere. You have to have that, which is why trust being the reason why you gave administrators a global on-off switch and clear visibility over their credit usage in admin mode. How does providing this level of overarching control in our broader approach align with our broader approach to organisational compliance?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And this touches back on how we've approached it from the human in the loop and human in the lead, right? And I might be repeating myself here, but I know a lot of us here can empathize with the experience of logging into one of the many platforms we use and finding, hey, there's an AI thing here that's popped up that's getting in the way, and it's already started doing work. I didn't approve this. Like, how do I opt out? How do I get it to not do this? What are my data risks, for example? These are all very valid concerns. Even on a platform that isn't touching sensitive data, I still don't want it to touch that stuff. Even if they've set it up in an appropriate way, like we've had, for example, even if they've done that, I still have concerns. So considering all of this, and to make sure we're sticking to our guns, which is keeping you in the driver's seat, we have made our entire AI rollout opt-in. So that's why we've enabled a very top level checkbox, and this can be found in system settings, general settings, and you'll find a checkbox there saying enable Logiqc AI. Again, that's only for pro and enterprise customers, so you got to make sure your plan's right there. Little sales pitch. But again, it's opt-in, and that isn't just on a global level. That's also everywhere in our approach. So just to recap some of the ways we've rolled this out, right? We don't have something popping up in the bottom of the screen saying, hey, I've figured out how you can fill out this incident form, or hey, that's not quite right. We haven't gone with a Clippy approach, for example. Instead, we just give you a button that is initially disabled, so you can't use it functionally. Once you populate the incident description, then it's available saying, hey, fill in this form with AI, which you can then do. It will make as much of its reasoning as it can transparent. We earmark every single field to say, hey, this has been updated with AI. You need to check this. And lastly, we gate the entire process as well. So we make sure that you've checked a little box to really drive home the fact that, hang on, you are you are behind the steering wheel, but there's responsibility that comes with that position. And all of these little things align with our opt-in rather than opt-out approach. So it's there to assist you without being buggy.
That's great. Yeah, I really like using it. I hope some people on the call have given it a try, but it really does wonderful things. Last question. If anyone else has questions, people on the call, please pop them in. Helen actually does have a question, Tim, before we move on to the last one.
Yeah.
Once it's enabled, is it then turned on for all organisational users to access? It is, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. So you don't currently have granular control to turn it on and off for select users. It's simply on for your organization, or it's not.
Right. Okay, so right now Logiqc AI is doing the heavy lifting when we complete incident details form to try and lower that barrier of people reporting and making it easier. Looking ahead, how does the foundational work you've done now and up to now on the data sovereignty and user-led validation pave the way for how AI might support other areas of the Logiqc platform?
Yeah, really good question. like I was saying before, this is the hard stuff, right? And we're in the fortunate position to have done that now. We have a very strong foundation for moving forward and how we can keep rolling this out. Also, we're very much looking towards any kind of feedback, especially now that we have this rolled out on the incident form, to see how users are getting value out of it and engaging with the actual feature itself. So these are exceedingly important to us. Again, we want to make sure human is in the lead. You are the person reviewing and making sure that any reasoning and suggestions that it makes are in alignment with what you actually need. We don't want it to get in your way. We want it to get out of your way and do the hard stuff, right? So one of the things we've paid a lot of attention to in the incident register is the suggestion for your severity rating. That currently checks your dynamic configuration that you've configured behind in the backend to make sure it adheres to your policies. So if you have specific criteria, it will look for that in your provided description. This is the hard stuff, right? If you've gone through an incident, that's and you're reporting that, you're not necessarily concerned with the finer details of your policy. That's how we're considering rolling it out across the platform. Some of the first things that we're looking at is how to roll this out for the other reporting registers as well, such as feedback, maintenance, repair. That's something we have potentially to address. And again, just a disclaimer, we're not committing to rolling these out in specific orders, but again, trying to consider how we can roll that out in these reporting registers in a way that helps elevate your experience, improve accuracy and ease of use. We do have some other prototypes in the works, such as something more conversational. I won't say much more than that and keep it potentially a bit of a surprise, but something a bit more dynamic that allows you to engage with the platform as you need to. And again, keeping to that ephemeral kind of idea and not storing anything you need. There are some specific use cases as well, such as vectorized search for documents and policies, which could be huge. We know that a lot of our customers have enormous documentation bases, and sometimes you just have a very specific question that could take you an hour or so to trawl through documentation and actually find the specific result. Or if you had a contextual search engine over these documents and assets, you would be able to find that much more easily. The idea is here that in situ, when you just need to ask the question, what's our policy on this again, to be able to provide an answer or at least tell you where to find more detail quickly and in the moment. There's a lot of other additional items here where, as you put it, AI is helping out with the heavy lifting of the incident form population. That's how we're trying to look at it. And there's so many opportunities for that across Logic.
Amazing. Exciting times ahead, people. Yeah, thank you, Tim. That was really great. And thank you for taking us through all of those things in such great detail. If anyone has any other questions, please feel free to pop them in. We do have a couple of minutes left.
And thanks again for the questions and feedback already. That's fantastic.
We've got a question. I've just got to make sure I see everything. Noting complimentary credits are allocated at the start of each month, are used before pay credits and resets on the 1st. When credits are used, does it prompt that they've been used up? Yes, it does, doesn't it? It does warn you.
It does. We actually do a check beforehand, and we're looking to maintain that as well. So at 80%, once you load up the incident form, and that's 80% across your total available credits. So if you only have complimentary credits and no paid credits that have rolled over, it'll be 80% of that, but it'll be a commingled 80%. Once it reaches that, it will provide a little message saying, hey, you know, you're getting close to running out of credits here. You might want to, well, if you have permissions to buy things from the Logic store, so more credit packs, it will provide you a link. Otherwise, it'll simply say, hey, you know, you might run out of credits. When you do load up the feature and you've run out of actual credits, there's none left, it will provide you with a different message again. And these are appropriately colored with appropriate UI prompts and everything to make sure that you have an idea of what is available and what isn't. If you've crossed the threshold after a given prompt, it will then show the message afterwards, whether that's crossing into 80% or you've hit your deadline, or rather you've used all available credits at that moment. Just to reiterate something from last webinar, one of the things we made a bit of a case analysis of was, what do you do for users who are right on the fence? So we don't want to turn off the tap when you're halfway through filling up your water bottle, to put it one way. The actual completion of an incident request is a rather small task. So if you have available credits, for example, we will allow you to create that one incident form submission. You will get the alert afterwards, like, hang on, you've used all of your available credits, but the operation will be done. That will be a deficit that carries over until the complimentary credits and paid credits for your next monthly cycle.
Right. Thanks for that. If there's anything else, please pop them in there. Otherwise, I will just let you know, Tim's given us all of the information about Logiqc AI now, and next month when we're having 2 webinars, and that's going to really focus on how you can build your business rules to support Logiqc AI. So the user puts in the description, AI takes care of the rest, but it also does apply the business rules so that the assigned component in the bottom end of the form is filled in. So again, just putting that reassurance in that we are sticking with your rules around how you want incidents reported. So if you haven't registered yet for that webinar, please do so. Remember, we do have the YouTube channel that we spoke about earlier. We'll pop this into an email for you if you've registered for the webinar. It will be on the Academy as well. So wherever you want to find it, you are going to. If you have any specific questions, please pop those, click on the question mark and ask a human, or email us at support@logiqc.com.au. If you want to know if you need to upgrade your plan, you can always email me at customersuccess@logiqc.com.au and I can help you out with that. But other than that, thank you all for coming in and joining us today. But Tim, thank you so much for answering all the questions today and giving us that real clarity that Logiqc AI for incident reporting is a good thing.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is all mine. And thank you all, fantastic attendees and audience. Appreciate it. Thank you, Elizabeth.
See you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.